right in front of us. I'm Vince Cox. This is our July 21st Finance Committee meeting. I'm your committee chair and I represent Pinellas County. Let's introduce the other PSDA board members, starting to the left and then circling around, right?
My name's Richard Bennett. I represent the beach communities.
Councilmember Dan Saraki for the city of Oldsmar.
I can't be that fancy. Jeff Gow, City of Dunedin.
And your name?
Oh, I wasn't sure. Okay. Josh Schulman, City of St. Petersburg.
Thank you all.
Good. There's a lot more people here.
Yeah, pretty cool. Now what? Okay, I want to welcome everyone joining us on Zoom as well. Clarissa, are there any members of the public in the lobby who wish to speak?
There are no public comments from the lobby.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have our action items in front of us, and the first is to approve the June 16th, 2021 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the June 16th minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second from Commissioner Gao. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes. Next, we're going to have the pleasure of having Abhishek update us on the Sunrunner Professional Services contract.
Good
Abhishek,
morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Finance Committee, Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management. It's great to see everyone in person, and I look forward to giving you this presentation on the Sunrunner construction, but this item is also for action. The action requested today is to extend the contract for two of our professional services contracts that are supporting the Sunrunner construction. So let me pull up the presentation here. And I want to make sure I'm on the right. Great. So Sunrunner project, as you are aware, this is a 10-mile project, our rapid transit project connecting downtown St. Petersburg to St. Pete Beach. The total project cost is $43.93 million with funding coming from FDOT, City of St. Petersburg, PSTA, and then of course we are the first project in the Tampa Bay history to have received federal New Starts funding for this project. And that covered almost half the total project cost, which we received last year. And many of you were at the event last year when we commemorated us receiving those funds. Construction is going on quite nicely. Many of you, if you drive down the corridor, you might see our construction crews fairly active all along the corridor. We have completed 17 station platforms out of the 30 that we were proposing to build. And then construction is currently in downtown St. Petersburg near the USF area where our concrete platforms are being constructed as we speak. We've also completed some temporary lane restriping along First Avenue South. And that was primarily to make room for those platforms, so to accommodate those platforms. So our contractors will come back sometime early next year to put permanent lane restriping, as well as the red asphalt to denote those bus lanes for this project. And then understanding that there are so many stakeholders all along the corridor, whether it's St. Pete Beach, Pinellas County, FDOT, City of St. Petersburg, and several other developers who are doing their own construction projects. So we're basically coordinating with all of those entities to make sure that there are no disruption, especially to the public. They only see minimal disruption to the traffic flow. So we're coordinating quite heavily with all those stakeholders along the corridor. We've also received all our 9 buses now that would support the Sunrunner project, and they are sitting here in our PSTA yard. Henry and his team are going through the inspections for those buses and making sure that they are per our specifications. And so once his team gives us the go-ahead, we can start the training for our operators to start using those buses. So just a quick glimpse of what the construction's looking like in St. Pete Beach. We have completed 4 platforms so far. What you see on the left side is a picture of a station platform along Gulf Boulevard. On the right side, the picture is of a platform along 75th Avenue in St. Pete Beach. In South Pasadena, we've also completed 4 platforms there. They're all curbside platforms, just like St. Pete Beach. You can see a couple of those platforms near the Fred Hill Park on the left side, and on the right side, just across the street from there, that's the platform there. And then in St. Petersburg is where bulk of our construction is going on. We have completed 9 platforms so far. The one on the left you see is on Pinellas Way and First Avenue South. And that actually has a red concrete bed in front of the station platform for our buses to pull up on. And then on the right side is the station platform in downtown St. Pete. This is at 8th Street across from Publix. That has been completed as well. We've also worked with our contractor to fabricate our shelter. So one of the shelters, or the mock shelters that they have built, they've actually placed this at our PSTA yard. This is actually sitting on top of our training platform. This training platform was something we constructed very early on in the construction phase, again, to let our operators get a sense of what this platform would look like, and to help with the training for our operators. So that's where you can find our mock shelter. And then finally, our buses, as I noted, we have received all 9 buses that will be used for this project. These are 40-foot Gillig hybrid electric buses. Our first bus did arrive back in May, and so far we've been getting a couple of them at a time every couple of weeks. So now we have received all of those, and like I said, Henry and his team are working on the inspection portion of those bus reviews. Now, 3 years ago, when I came to the committee and also presented to the board, we had outlined all the contracts that we will be awarding as part of the Sunrunner project. And the first contract that the board awarded was to H.W. Lochner back in August of 2018. This was for design services. And then a month later, the board also awarded the contract to HDR for project management and construction management services. And then in 2019, the board authorized us to move forward with a contract or a task order with Gillig to purchase those 9 hybrid electric buses that you all saw in the previous slide. And then last year, after we received the federal funding and the grant agreement was signed, the board awarded the contract to Nelson Construction to start the construction phase for this project. So these are all the contracts that we have awarded so far. I will also note that the HDR and Lochner contract, they have a 3-year term limit, and which is why I'm coming here to see if we can extend this contract a little bit further. As far as the status and schedule is concerned, construction is expected to continue into 2022, and our target for service operations is to begin in summer of 2022. And then even beyond that, we will continue to work with our contractors and all the consultants to complete the closeout for this project, including paying all the invoices, the warranties, and as such. So this is where we are as far as construction goes. We will be looking to open the service in summer of 2022. And so finally, the recommendation to the committee is to recommend a contract extension for the 2 professional services contract, one for HW Lochner and the other one to HDR, to continue to support the construction phase of this project. I will note that this is just a time extension. We're not asking for any funding to be added to their contract. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. And committee members, do we have any questions, discussion?
I have some questions, please, Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Khan.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just to help me get caught up, I get, were these extensions planned, or has there been a delay in the process?
No, at that time, Mr. Commissioner, these were only awarded for a 3-year timeframe, both those contracts. And we were anticipating to have those extended if need be. So given the way the construction is laying out, we will need those contracts to be extended to continue to support the construction phase.
Okay. And with the other contracts that we have out there, can we anticipate extensions on some other contracts as well, or is this kind of it?
So at this point, the only other 2 contracts that we have are the bus contract. So the bus contract, as I noted, we've already received the buses. So we don't expect to extend that contract. And then the construction phase, at this point, I don't anticipate extending that beyond the contract term.
Okay, and with the 9 buses, that is the complete fleet for this?
Yes, sir.
BRT?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This might go beyond the scope of the Finance Committee, and I do apologize for that, but just again, for my own education. We have 17 of the 30 platforms are done, but if I understood that diagram, there were 26 stops. Is that correct, if I looked at the PowerPoint correctly?
So Commissioner, there are a total of 16 stops if you go from one direction to the other, from downtown St. Pete to St. Pete Beach. But each stop has 2 platforms, one in each direction, so except for the last 2 stops. So that's why we have 30 total platforms.
Okay.
If you just count the number of circles, though, on the map, you get 26.
Yes, that's.
Oh, I see.
And so I don't know, do those circles represent stops, or?
Some of those represent stops. I'll just go back to the map here.
Some of the ones on Gulf Boulevard there in St. Pete Beach and Treasure Island, there's just one dot, because the stations are right across the street from each other. And, but that's 2, but he's counting it as 2.
It's 2.
There's actually 2 platforms.
And that makes sense.
Yes.
Right, coming and going, okay. And when it comes to the number of stops and the whole concept of BRT, is there a certain number of stops where it no longer becomes an R? And, it's no longer rapid? And is there a measure to that when we talk about BRT?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, something we talked about during the planning phase. How many stops are too many or too few? And it really depends on where the corridor is. In dense urban environments, because there are so many destinations, you tend to have stops a lot closer than when you go out, out of the downtown area. So in general, on an average, we have these stops a mile apart, just to give that rapid operations for our service. But in the downtown area, in downtown St. Pete, as you'll see in the map, the 3rd Street and 6th Avenue stop, they're closer than a mile, only because there are more destinations for people to get to. But when we go out on 1st Avenue North and South, all those stops are a mile apart.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Vince, one question?
Yes, sir. Commissioner
Abhishek, I'd
Saraki.
just like to say thank you for keeping us updated. I remember when I first got on the PSTA board and I was involved in this project. This is a wonderful project for our community. My one question is, were the delays caused by the COVID pandemic?
We did have a few delays early on. This is, again, trending with pretty much everyone who's facing these delays across the country. mostly to do with supply chain issues and material acquisitions. As you know, there were travel restrictions, flight restrictions from materials coming from abroad. We do get some materials from Europe, some from Asia. Because of COVID, there were restrictions placed, but our contractor's been working really well with their vendors to get those materials in place. So we've been able to make up for a lot of the lost time back then to be able to be on schedule for the construction phase.
That's what I thought. Thank you again for your great presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
I second.
Okay, we have an approval from Commissioner Schulman, second from Commissioner Saraki, and this is for the extension of the time of the contract terms for HDR and Lochner. Do we have a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Abhishek, and thank you, your entire team.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the pleasure of Diane Randall, Director of Risk Management. She'll take us through a proposed claim settlement. Good morning, Diane.
Good morning. Nice to see everyone. I'm
Good
here
to see
this
you. I
morning.
don't know if it's a pleasure. I don't know if it's a pleasure when she comes to the podium.
I'm sorry?
I don't know if it's a pleasure financially when you come to the podium.
It's just me, Brad. They're happy to see
It
me.
is good to see you.
Oh, I'm here this morning for a action item to obtain recommended approval for settlement authority of $50,000 to settle an employment practices liability claim and resolve ongoing litigation for Krishnamurthy Nadell. Mr. Nadella was a bus operator with PSTA from 2007 through 2019. In March of 2019, he was involved in a altercation with a passenger and used pepper spray on the bus, resulting in affecting not only the passenger involved, but 3 other passengers. The bus video does also depict the passenger involved making some highly inflammatory racial slurs towards Mr. Nadella. As a result of the incident, Mr. Nadella was terminated for having violated multiple PSTA policies, and he was terminated in April of 2019. He subsequently filed a suit against PSTA for discrimination and retaliation based on race or national origin and religion in violation of the Florida Civil Rights Act. Mediation took place on this case on Tuesday, July 13th, and we were able to reach an agreement in the amount of $50,000 contingent upon board and excess carrier approval. This agreement is not in any way, shape, or form an admission of liability or wrongful conduct on the part of anyone at PSTA. It is simply resolving the litigation and ending the claim. The settlement amount is within our established claim file reserve, and the defense expenses have completely utilized our self-insured retention, so the entire settlement will be reimbursed by the excess carrier once they approve it. The approval is with them as of yesterday afternoon, so as soon as we hear from them, we'll be all wrapped up. So I'm just asking for approval for the settlement amount of $50,000 to resolve the ongoing litigation and settle the claim.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Do we have any questions or comment or discussion to have here? Board? Okay, Commissioner Schulman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I imagine the potential cost of proceeding with litigation as opposed to with the mediated settlement is expected to be the same, if not higher, than the settled amount?
Yes. If we were to go all the way through trial on this, the expected defense costs alone would be an additional $125,000 to $50,000. These type of cases are extremely expensive. And and then we would still be have the exposure for the potential $200,000 limit for him if he were to prevail.
right.
which I don't think he would, but
I understand, and sometimes these become business decisions versus
exactly.
right and wrong,
Right.
fault, no fault, so.
Well, and once it becomes the excess carrier's dollar, I have to take that into account.
Understood. All right, thank you so much. No additional questions.
Mr. Chair, do you need a motion for approval?
I'd like to ask a
Sure,
question here
go
real
ahead.
quickly. Thank you, Diane. And where I want to be clear too also is I understand 3 other people were affected by his pepper spray, as well as the individual that created this conflict. So what's their status? Are they retaliating at all against PSTA, to your knowledge, or?
No, we had nothing. There was one other person on the bus, in addition to the passenger that was involved. The other 2 that were involved were actually getting on the bus. They got on, turned right around and got off.
Okay, so we're not, that's not an issue. That's all I have, thank you. So do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Third.
We have a motion by Commissioner Saraki and a second and third. Second by Commissioner Gao. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank
Diane.
you.
Thank you for your work. Okay, now we have an illuminating item. And it's
Oh,
Henry, and he's going to replace some lights for us. So, Henry, thank you.
Well, good morning, committee. So for those that, I've come here and asked for a lot of things for the bus fleet and the facilities, but this one is actually somewhat novel here. So as you heard Abhishek talk a little while ago about supply chain issues, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about obsolescence. So we still have 65 transit buses that still have compact fluorescent lights on them, similar but a little different to what is actually in this room. And those light tubes have become obsolete, and we can no longer get them, and we are about to exhaust our supply. Now, for those that have been on our buses, you know that on the interior, there are passenger compartment lights. They run up and down both sides of the bus, and their primary reason, in addition to being a requirement under federal motor vehicle safety standards that they be there, is to provide illumination to passengers when it is dark out, and especially illuminate the front door area so that passengers can see where they're going. So this action item before you is to replace all of those compact fluorescent lights. They will be disposed of accordingly, because as you know, compact fluorescents do have an element of mercury in them, so they'll be recycled according to EPA. And replace them with custom-made LED light strips. Now, if you read ahead in the action item, you're probably saying, well, Henry, why is this a sole source for lights, especially LEDs? So for that, I'm going to take 2 quick minutes and kind of explain the evolution of a transit bus. So 25 years ago, when I was younger, and we were all living in a much simpler time when it came to vehicle technology, where even buses were just wires, circuit breakers, fuses. Electrical systems were very simple, right? Anybody could wire a car stereo to their personal vehicle and actually be successful at it. Flash forward, much like our automobiles of today, it's not just electrical wiring and circuit breakers and fuses. It is computer networks and all sorts of sophisticated electrical systems. So when we talk about the electrical system on a bus, okay, think of it as just one big computer network that's controlled by a bunch of gateways, almost as sophisticated as what it takes to broadcast this meeting on Zoom. We call it the multiplex system, all right? And it actually has its own communication network. It's called J1939. I may come back and tell you about that at a future meeting. So the reason for this being a sole source, which it will be to Gillig, as everyone knows, most of our fleet is predominantly Gillig bus. And each North American bus manufacturer partners with a electrical system provider on their buses. So of all the different transit buses that are made here in North America, they each have their own independent, different electrical system on them. In this case, the electrical system on a Gillig bus is made by IO Controls. Being said, IO Controls will be the manufacturer that will custom build these LED light packs to go on these buses so that they actually work with their electrical system on a Gillig bus. I'm sure there'll be a couple more questions, but as usual, I will turn it over to Director Burns to just talk about the very quick procurement process.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Henry.
Good morning, Al.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Al Burns, your highly motivated procurement director. Like my previous colleagues, I am so happy to be here this morning in person. The Gillig is not the manufacturer, as my colleague, Mr. Lukasik said, Gillig is not the manufacturer of these LED lights. They have a designated sole distributor, which is IO Control Corporation. Gillig does not manufacture very many things. So they have non-compete exclusive contracts with different suppliers for the different components of the bus. As Henry said, it was determined that this is a sole source, and we follow the Florida statute when it comes to sole source procurements. We posted on the website for a total of 7 days, giving other companies the opportunity to say, hey, we can do this or we can supply that product. We did that, and we had no responses to this. We did that on July 2nd, July 13th, we had no responses. The fiscal impact of this purchase, this item is covered under the FY21 Maintenance Department operating budget. And once again, the recommendation that we bring before you this morning is recommend approval of a one-time purchase with Gillig LLC for the purchase of LED vehicle lighting for 65 buses for a total contract amount not to exceed $121,000. If there's any questions, Henry and I would be happy to enlighten you.
Thank you. Pardon me. Thank you so much, Al. Have we, Commissioner Schulman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really, just one question. We're purchasing 65 of these. Is that because the other buses are already LED, or are we going to be back doing some others later?
No, these are the last 65 buses that have compact fluorescence. Everything else has LED.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Gao.
Just kind of a follow-up to my colleague's question. How long will it take to convert these 65 buses?
Actually, the longest time it's going to take is to receive them and manufacture them, given our current state of supply issues worldwide. We would anticipate it would take less than a month.
Very good. Thank you. That's pretty fast.
Okay, do we have any more discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we purchase the LED lights at a cost of $121,000.
Second?
I'll second.
Second, okay. Thank you.
We need lights.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Al. Thank you, Henry. And
Seems like
thank
a bright
you for illuminating us on this subject.
Dad
And
jokes.
now, we'll have, final action item is from Michael Hansen, and it's our FY 2022 PSTA trim notice, and include maintaining a millage rate of 0.075 for the coming year. Michael, good morning. Will you take us through this item?
Good morning, Chair and committee members. The action item today is to approve a proposed millage rate for our fiscal year 22 budget. The proposed rate, which is 0.7500, will appear in the trim notice mailed out next month. This is the maximum rate the PSTA will levy next year, and it is subject to 2 public hearings to be held in September. The dates of those hearings are September 15th and September 29th at 6 p.m. here at PSTA. Again, this is the proposed rate, and the final rate will not be any higher than .7500, which it has been for many years. So in summary, the action today is to approve the proposed millage rate of .7500 to be transmitted to the property appraiser.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion or questions here?
Chair, if I may?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Gao.
Yeah, just to clarify that this is not a change from last year's millage rate.
No, this is the same millage rate we've had since 2017.
Thank you.
And as we understand, that is capped by the Florida legislature. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the millage rate.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Soraki, second by Commissioner Schulman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay, Julie Lupus, welcome in person to discuss the monthly financial statement.
I know, I was so excited last month to be here, and it seems like it was just yesterday.
How about that, huh?
So, good morning, everyone. Julie Lupus, Director of Accounting. In May, we finished .26 million unfavorable to budget, which was driven by reduced passenger fare. Staff has also continued to work on controlling expenses and coming in at $348,000 favorable to budget. The effects of COVID-19 on purchase transportation services has been a factor in this favorable budget. On the next page, from May year to date, we not only have a surplus, but are exceeding budgeted expectations by 12% or $2.4 million. Expense control and lingering COVID effects are carrying this, are carrying this surplus with salary and fringes under budget $1.5 million and purchase transportation services under budget $1.6 million. Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm very echoey. Does anyone need me to repeat anything? And thank you, Debbie.
No, you can continue, thank you. We heard you, and I guess they heard well enough.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
right.
usually have a big mouth, so.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't.
That was high level, so. No?
No questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Debbie, we have some talk about the PSTA contracts, and we'll have Debbie come forward. Thank you, Debbie. And thank you, Julie, too.
Certainly. We've got the quarterly contract report, which is in your packages, and I don't know if there's any questions related to it. For those of you who are new to the committee, we provide this every quarter, and we do it so that you can see how much we have for the total contract plus an average amount per year that would come out to, assuming it was just a straight average. But are there any questions? Commissioner Schulman?
No, the average here makes it so much more helpful.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? Oh, Mr. Miller?
CFO Elias, I would ask you to just take a look at the CDM Smith
Okay.
contract, because I think there might be an extra zero.
Okay, I will do that,
Yeah,
probably.
I don't think we're
I
spending
apologize.
$23 million with them. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll correct that for the next report. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. I mean, Debbie. Oops.
That's
I
okay.
had Julie on my mind. Thank you. Okay, now we have ridership performance. Brad, anything you'd like to highlight on the ridership report?
Would you have it on a piece of paper in your,
Right,
maybe it's in the packet too.
right here.
Yeah. Ridership for the month of June, of course, was up. It'll be interesting, I think, to see what happened for July, because we instituted fares. The Flamingo fares went into effect on July 5th, and all of the fares hit, and so it'll be interesting to see what the impact is on our ridership. Well, I don't think it'll be enormous on the fixed route, and then maybe on PSTA access it will be, I think it will have an effect, some effect.
Is that positive or negative effect, meaning up or down?
I think ridership, and I think we're kind of expecting and kind of hoping that it'll go down a little bit, especially on the mobility on demand, where people are just going all about, taking multiple trips. You can see that complaints are up on PSTA access fairly significantly in the month of June. I think they'll be up again in July. We are going through the transition phase, which we, by contracting out, we go through, it seems like every single time we transition to a new contractor. And I know our folks and the contractor folks are working very hard to make things better, to make things as good as they were for many years with Care Ride. So stay tuned on that. Hopefully we can keep making some good progress. I think we are making good progress on that. And otherwise, I would just note that despite maybe some folks' concerns, security incidents have been dropping lately. The number of issues, arguments with masks and things like that have gone down, which is a good sign. Which is a really good sign. That's about it from my perspective.
Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brad, are we anticipating making any changes given increases in COVID positivity rates? Pinellas County is currently at 9.2 according to the state a week ago. Are we, that's more than it was in April when we had no fares and we were changing how people were loading the buses.
Yeah.
And any thoughts there?
Well, we constantly are monitoring it, working with Pinellas County Health Department. Of course, PSTA and all transit in the United States is under a mask mandate until September 13th. And so we've kind of gauged all of our policies are going to stay the way they are, at least that's the game plan now, until September 13th before we make any adjustments. But that may need to change. I mean, right now, like I said, by the instituting of the fares, we aren't seeing the overcrowding as much as we were when fares were free and the economy was kind of opening back up. So as far as number of people on the bus, it seems like by and large people are able to space out and they have to wear masks. They're required to wear masks. But we meet weekly to discuss the new numbers and to see if there's anything else we can do.
So currently no anticipated changes to the policies that we have.
Currently no changes from where we are now. And I mean, we still require masks here in the office. There's a whole transition plan. Probably I would say at least half of the people that can work from home are still working from home still. Remotely when they can. There's a limitation on the number of people that can be together. We've got all those policies in place still as well.
Do we have a capacity limit on the bus still, or have those been?
There's no capacity limit on the bus. But again, since we instituted fares, the ridership is down somewhat, especially we're in the summertime also. So we'll just have to see if ridership picks up and we get overcrowding, then maybe we'll have to institute a max load if the numbers keep going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if in the next state report there were not double-digit positivity rate in Pinellas County. Hillsboro's at 13.7 from last week, and it's growing. So I just want to keep in mind, I mean, we stopped collecting fares, we stopped loading at the front of the bus, and we kept that when positivity rates were lower. And now that things are moving up, one of the things that I said before we decided to open things back up is that we not get stuck on, well, this is the policy, this was the date that we were reopening and doing things, that we were being mindful to what was actually happening in the community, and making sure that we're keeping things safe. So if we have to institute, limits on the number of people, I don't know if we're still encouraging social distancing on the bus, but those sorts of practices need to be, we might need to remind folks about those.
That's a good thought.
On a positive note, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Of course, go.
I absolutely love seeing the PSTA access vans around town. I was actually a little surprised with the first one I saw, I'm like, what is that? Because I didn't realize it was called, that we
'Cause you've been
come up with the name
talking about it.
PSTA Access, even though I've been asking for PSTA's name to be on those since I got here. So it's wonderful to see them. I've had other people, share that they've seen them and that they see PSTA. Oh, they're not just buses. I would love, as an extension of that, to put a little bit of a description on the van, like what it is. So again, because part of our constituency are the taxpayers that don't use PSTA. And letting them know what these things are for and why they're here and they're part of our community helps them be encouraged about what we're doing, as opposed to just being stuck behind a bus when someone's loading or unloading. So,
Yeah.
it's been great seeing the PSTA access around. Thank you.
Any more discussion? I have a couple of things here. And Josh, that was very insightful what you just led us through, okay, about the COVID and our percentages going up so high. And we do know that when we institute fares, and it actually slows down the process of boarding the bus, and people get a little bit channeled behind each other if they're using cash. But the good part about that is that I think we've been very effective with distributing Flamingo cards too. I had a flat tire on 18th Avenue South. That was my vehicle, not a bus. And I watched the little bus stop there, 18th and 25th Ave and 25th Street, and folks getting on there, tap, tap, tap. They had their Flamingo cards, which really expedites the process and would make it less likely for somebody to contract something from someone else. But I truly believe that where we're headed right now, when it comes to COVID, is, pardon me, I've been inoculated, but listen, a fellow at my church was inoculated and he got it. So, all that being said, I think we have to use ultra caution, and again, I know that the PSTA will keep on top of this and evaluate it, and it's our duty as board members too to make sure we're doing that. That's, yes, sir.
So, and I appreciate that, and truly, the goal here is just to make sure that our riders in our community and our drivers are remaining safe.
Right.
And so, I would rely more on the bus driver experience and what they're seeing in the field, how people are queuing, how they're sitting, to even more so than a positivity rate. Like, tell us what's going on and what you're seeing, and if there needs to be a change to address that. I just want to, again, just make sure that we're being mindful of the environment as it changes. I was sharing with another member, I was at a forum last night where everyone in the building was wearing masks again. It wasn't a transit thing, so we weren't required to, but everyone was wearing masks again. And so our policies just need to make sure we're reflective of what's happening in the community at large.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sprackett, do you have something?
No.
Okay, so if we have any other business to bring before the committee? If not, I'm not going to do it hard. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good job, Mr. Chair, good job.
Well done.
Thank you.
We'll try to
Okay.
maybe survey the
Richard, how are you, man?
drivers to see what they're thinking.
Well,
I haven't heard anything, which is kind of surprising.
well, part of the thing, I
Oh,
think
no,
sometimes you have to add
I'm fine.
I know, that's what I'm
and
wondering.
I agree. From people can queue and get on, but I mean, I said this before we